I've lived in Montgomery County for 59 years. I've lived here long enough before there was even a North Bethesda, and North Potomac was just simply Gaithersburg. So if you're thinking about moving here, buying a home here, or deciding if this is the right place for your next chapter, let me give you the honest truth and what it's actually like to live in Montgomery County. Hi, if we haven't met, my name is Kevin Grolig. I'm a lifelong native of Montgomery County. I've raised 4 kids here, and most importantly, 4 independent kids who are off of my payroll, which is a good thing. And then I've also been a full-time top producing real estate agent for over 40 years. So when it comes to Montgomery County, I'm not going to say that I know everything, but let's just say I know my stuff. I didn't move here for a job. I didn't come here for the schools. I didn't discover it later in life. I actually grew up here. And because of that, I don't just know the neighborhoods. I know the before and the after and everything leading up to it. I've watched this county change slow in real time. So when I was born in 1966, the approximate population of Montgomery County was about 450,000 residents. Fast forward to today, 2026, and we're fast approaching 1.1 million residents. Actually, 2024, there was 1,082,000 in the last census, so we're probably pushing right now about 1.1 million. So there's been a ton of growth over the last 55, 60 years. I also want to be clear about something here. This video is not a whole hype video about Montgomery County, nor is it a video to trash Montgomery County. My goal here is to call balls and strikes and just keep it real for you. What I see is positives or pros, as well as what I see are potential cons, and really also just to kind of give you a flavor of what to expect if you decide that you want to relocate here. I've had the conversation hundreds of times before people move here, and then again a year later once the real life kicks in. And what I find is the funny thing is the people who love it here always kind of say the same things, and the people who struggle here almost always say the same things. So I want to walk you through it like a local. Let's start with why people come here and ultimately end up staying for decades, or you have somebody like me who's lived here his whole life. Number one, here's the truth. People don't stay in Montgomery County because it's necessarily flashy. This is not Rodeo Drive. This is not like the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I mean, it's Montgomery County, Maryland. The reason they really stay here is because it's stable. And once you hit a certain stage of life, raising kids, building a career, caring for aging parents, or just trying to have a routine that doesn't feel chaotic, stability becomes a luxury. And I would definitely say that Montgomery County is built for long-term living. The neighborhoods aren't built for quick turnover. County services are strong. School system is a major draw. Now, I'm not going to get into my opinion on certain schools, but I will say is that there are certain schools that carry more demand. And of course, with that comes typically higher real estate values. And there's probably some that don't have quite the same amount of demand. And usually what you'll see there is the pricing soften a little bit. You are close to Washington, D.C., which is a major draw for many people, provides a lot of employment. Now, once again, going back about 45 or 50 years when I was growing up, my father was a DC firefighter. Most of the parents of the kids that I went to school with, most of those parents worked in DC. So, commuting to DC from like a Rockville, Bethesda, Silver Spring, Chevy Chase area back in the day really wasn't that big of a deal. Today, you've got people that have moved a lot further out into Gaithersburg and Germantown and parts of the upper part of Montgomery County and still, feed into Washington, D.C. Now, here's the big difference is that, today what I see is more people actually live and work in Montgomery County. There's definitely fewer people that go into D.C. every day like when I used to see, 40 or 50 years ago. Montgomery County is huge when it comes to life sciences, biotech, and so there's a ton of life sciences and biotech that are kind of in that central part of Montgomery County, the Rockville, the Gaithersburg. You've got AstraZeneca headquarters right in Gaithersburg. You've also got a lot of defense contractors. We're also huge for hospitality. A lot of people don't know this, but this is actually where Marriott is headquartered, which is in Bethesda, Maryland. And you've also got host hotels and places like that. So as of doing this video 2026, the federal government jobs, I will definitely tell you, aren't as plentiful as they've always been in the past, and certainly probably aren't as stable as they've been, yet there's still a ton of people that work with the federal government, the county government, and of course there's a lot of still contractors who work on behalf of the government. And I think that one of the most underrated things that people don't really appreciate until later is predictability. When life gets busy, predictability becomes more valuable than excitement. And that's why I see so many people buy here and come here from other areas, and they end up staying 20 or 30 years. Now, many of these people, I helped them buy here, let's say in 1995, and now here we are 2026, and they're starting to think about either downsizing, potentially relocating, retiring, and things like that. Now, part of the reason I've been here, a few reasons. Number one, didn't have a whole hell of a lot of choice in it. I ended up, if you've ever watched my video that I put out, I was a dad at 19, a little bit by surprise there. And so I had to kind of grow up quickly. Now, I already knew that I liked the area. I wasn't planning on leaving the area, but I ended up having to drop out of college pretty quick and get pretty serious at that point in time. Got into real estate. And, with this type of business, this isn't the type of business that you build and then you just leave and go move to Florida or California or Timbuktu, because unfortunately, I can't take my clients with me. So, to a certain degree, I didn't really have a lot of choice in staying here. But, I have no regrets whatsoever. And frankly, me and my wife have really felt is that we do want to kind of always keep Montgomery County as our home base. That's not to say that we may not get a second place, obviously do some traveling. Gosh knows, I'm not a big fan of the winters. I would love a warmer climate. But you know what? I do believe this is home, and this is where I'm always going to keep a home base. Now, going back in time and looking back at the earlier days of my career, earlier days of Montgomery County, I remember when I first got my real estate license in 1986, but I really didn't get serious and full-time into the business until 1990. And I will never forget this. I was invited by a builder developer to come to this new area, this huge swath of land in the Gaithersburg area, and they were starting this new community called the Kentlands, which was like an urban neo-traditional community, really one of its kind for the area at that time. This was going to be a huge venture, many different builders. The idea was going to be like a live-work location. And I'll never forget coming out here, and this was just a massive plan. It was just like tons of open space. I don't even think we had model homes at the time. I think there were trailers, and each builder had a trailer. This time they had a big luncheon just to kind of introduce all the real estate agents to the community and what they were going to be developing to hopefully get behind it and hopefully, help sell properties there. And I just remember this being like, oh my God, this is enormous. Just started, I want to say it was like in the 1989 going into 1990 range, where we were and nobody knew it at the time, but we were just coming out of this huge boom market in the late 80s, about to enter a really bad, struggling market for pretty much all of the 1990s. And I remember, this seems like such a cool concept, but I have to tell you, the community is called Kentlands. I'm actually live here today. I'm actually shooting this video from my basement in Kentlands. I love this community. I've done videos on this community, but I will tell you that about 3 to 5 years into the development of it, it wasn't sure if this was going to take off or not, because once again, it was such a huge project. But, looking forward now, really 35 years later, 36 years later, I mean, this is one of the gems of Montgomery County is the Kentlands community. So enough about Kentlands. I'm biased. I've done a lot of videos on there. I live there right now. Walkable, blah, 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 tons of amenities. All right, enough about that. Step 2, we're going to talk about what surprises people when they relocate here. Now, some of them might be good, but admittedly, some of them might be bad. So you're going to want to stay tuned, because if anything I can do at all, I'd love to save you a little bit of pain. The biggest surprise for most buyers is how different everyday life feels depending on where they land in the county. And Montgomery County is definitely not one place. It's like multiple counties inside the county. Once again, Montgomery County is a huge county. It's actually the most populated county in all of Maryland. And when most people are quizzed about, what's the most populated part of Maryland, I would think that most people would naturally think that it's Baltimore. But actually, Baltimore City itself only has about 600,000 residents, and Montgomery County on its own, we are right at about 1.1 million. So once again, this is a hugely populated area. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all. So let's talk about how some of the areas of the county are a little bit different. 2 homes can definitely be priced similarly, and your lifestyle can be completely different. Commute times change, school assignments change, and we've got a lot of that going on in Montgomery County right now. So feel free to check out some of the videos on some of the school reassignments. Traffic patterns change. Even how crowded stores feel during the week can vary dramatically. And this is where people make a mistake. They fall in love with the house, but they don't fall in love with the life that comes with the house. And I've seen this many times. I've seen people who love the house, it's all about the house, finding the right place. And then when they get there, it just doesn't work with their life. And they're either regretting the purchase that they made, or sometimes they might be calling me 2 to 3 years later to think about moving. Maybe that is further out. Maybe that's closer in. Maybe that's upsizing, downsizing, east, west. I would say if you're coming here, just don't be just thinking about houses. You need to be thinking about lifestyle in relation to the house and in relationship to the location that you end up deciding to move to. The house is only part of it. Your daily routine matters more. Where you're driving every morning, how crowded it feels like at 4:30 p.m., how long errands take, how easy is it to get to groceries? How much time you spend sitting in traffic? Those are things you will never understand from just listing photos or a virtual tour. Okay, next we're going to get a little bit spicy on this video here. We're going to talk a little bit about the political and cultural reality, both measured and honest. I'm not going to give you my views, my opinions, my thoughts, but let's just kind of keep it real and kind of break it down. Okay, let's get this one off my plate really quickly. Montgomery County is largely blue. It's Democratic, it's progressive. And that shows up in how the county is run, how it's planned, what gets prioritized, and the overall culture. But here's the nuances that outsiders don't always realize. It varies a lot depending on geographically where you are. So generally speaking, the lower part of Montgomery County tends to be more Democratic and more progressive. The northern part of the county tends to be more balanced, and there are pockets that lean more conservative. Now, I'm not saying that to start an argument, but that's just tends to be how things go. I'm also saying this because if you're relocating here, you should understand the feel of the county is not identical everywhere you go. The conversations people have, the priorities people care about, even what people complain about changes depending on where you are. For some people that matters a lot, for other people it doesn't matter at all. But either way, it's part of what makes Montgomery County what it is. Now let's talk about people who thrive here and those who struggle. Montgomery County is a great fit for people who think long term. People who want consistency, people who want to live near DC but don't want to live in DC. People who care about strong resale values over time, people who want structure. It's also a great county for family. And even if you don't have kids, there's something to be said for living in a place where people generally care about school, safety, and stability. But I'll also say this. If you want a looser environment or you want a place that feels like it changes every 6 months, Montgomery County can feel slow. It can feel bureaucratic and it can feel expensive. And none of those things are automatically bad, but you need to know that before you sign up. Kind of bringing in some of the personal experiences that I've had professionally working with people that relocate. Once again, I feel like those people who take the time to get to learn the area before they just rush in and buy based on reputation are usually the ones who do the best. If you've never lived in this area before and you don't have a good, solid family friend structure that lives here, I would say it might be a good idea to potentially rent before you purchase because, of course, purchasing is a long-term commitment. I would never suggest to do that unless you're in it for the long term. And I've seen plenty of people who've come here and they hear about the lifestyle, read school rankings, and they're automatically like, that's where I want to move to. And then they end up finding that the vibe just isn't what they expected and everything. So once again, analytics are great, but there's nothing that replaces actual boots on the ground and checking places out. Now, this video isn't really to promote me as a realtor, but I will say this, that a good realtor who knows the area is also invaluable. I know that when I'm working with people that come in from out of the area, usually the first time or two that we go out, we probably see a few homes, but it's less about seeing homes and it's more about seeing the area and the kind of the countryside and, places where you might want to go to spend time outdoors, some of those kind of cool places. I like to point those type of things out, depending upon who you are. If you like cultural events and cultural places, we could spend more time there. If you're more into hiking and outdoors, we can kind of talk about more about those type of things and suggesting areas that you might want to go to. So, frankly, for the first time or two that when I've got somebody that's relocating, it's really more I have to be honest with you, it's more of a glorified tour guide there, kind of showing the area. And of course, we're going to see some homes in between to get a feel for what your dollar buys you. Got to be honest with you, $700,000 for a single family home, you're going to find it hard to find something in Bethesda. Not impossible, but hard, and it's going to be in probably major disrepair. However, you start moving further north into places like Rockville, Gaithersburg, Germantown, you can definitely find places there that are going to be larger, that are going to be probably better shape, that are going to still work within your budget. So once again, a lot changes depending upon where you go within the county. So there you go. That's kind of my feel from Montgomery County, both personal as well as professional, what I've seen with other people that have relocated here, the good, the bad, the ugly. What are your thoughts? Do you have anything to add? Do you have any questions? If so, if you'd like to chat with me, the best way to get in touch with me, the easiest way to get in touch with me is by text. Also, there's a QR code on the screen right now. If you're watching this on TV and you want to scan that, you can set up a direct virtual appointment with me through Calendly, where we can take 15, 20, 30 minutes and talk about whatever you want to talk about with real estate. Are you thinking about buying? Are you thinking about relocating? Are you thinking about renting? Are you thinking about selling? Whatever, any questions that you have, school districts, how is that going to affect value? We can talk about anything, whatever is personal to you. So feel free to go ahead and scan that QR code, set up an appointment, and I'd love to chat with you about it. So as always, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. You can comment on the video, and also, more importantly, share the video. And thanks once again for checking me out, and I will see you next week.